Hi, I'm Coach Neil.
And I'm Coach Katie.
And this week we're talking about vitamins and minerals. So far we've picked a different topic to talk about nutritionally every week this semester. And for our fifth week, we're talking about vitamins and minerals and the importance they have not only for your health and just well-being, but also as an athlete, specific vitamins and minerals that affect your play and your performance very well. So to get started, we got to talk about what are vitamins and minerals, because I think for a lot of athletes, it's this big lofty term that's confusing, and there's just so many of them too that it kind of is overwhelming. So we just tend to not think about them at all. And what vitamins and minerals are organic and inorganic compounds that your body needs to function, but it cannot produce on its own. The difference in a vitamin and a mineral is a vitamin is organic, meaning it's produced by a plant or an animal, whereas minerals are inorganic, so they're produced just on the elemental tables, like iron, calcium, magnesium. So both are really important. Both are crucial to different functions of your body, and usually it's a really small amount. You don't need a ton of these things, but when you're lacking them, you can have serious issues. Things like scurvy. That's actually a deficiency in vitamin C. I've been bringing that up a lot, but it's a example of when your body is missing something that it can't make on its own and it desperately needs, bad things happen. And so we want to tell you easy ways to get a wide variety of vitamins and minerals, and then talk about some specific ones. So the first thing to know when talking about vitamins and minerals is there's a real easy rule of thumb, and you probably heard your mom and dad say this when you were little. It's eat a lot of color. Fruits, vegetables, anything that's green, orange, red, and it's supposed to be green, orange, or red, is going to be really good at having high values of vitamins and minerals. And then eating a wide variety of those fruits and vegetables will cover a lot of your bases too, because different fruits, different vegetables, different meats are higher in different vitamins and minerals, and making sure you have a lot of variety on your plate each day ensures that you're going to be hitting those different needs.
So to start off, I want to talk a little bit about electrolytes, which we hear push all the time, push electrolytes, especially when it's hot and when you're sweating a lot. But what does that really mean? So those are kind of a compilation of sodium, magnesium, potassium, and calcium. Your body needs all of these things to function. They especially need it for muscle contraction, for systems of your bodies to work, different things like that. And so when you sweat, you actually sweat out a lot of those things. And so that's why for athletes, it's important to make sure you're ingesting those electrolytes. And so, the biggest factor is Gatorade. Everyone always says, drink your Gatorade, push Gatorade. It has electrolytes in it, which is great. But just as we've talked about before, Gatorade's also very sugary. And so you just need to be mindful. Usually I tell people like a third Gatorade, 2/3 water is probably a good balance between that. There's no scientific evidence behind that, so disclaimer, but that's just kind of my magic number. A little extra thing too is usually during those hot months or a heavy workout or something like that, we ask that you salt your foods after workout, just because when you do sweat that sodium that your body has. And so a little bit of extra salt, but be mindful of your family's like heart health or heart history too, because sodium can have a factor into your heart health. So a fun fact, or a different way that you can do that instead of using a ton of salt, would be using eating an avocado, spinach, sweet potato, is better than using a Gatorade. It actually has 10 times more potassium, which your body actually needs as well for your muscle contraction. And so we usually think potassium, think a banana or something like that, which is also great. And then just another thing too is, how if you get a Charlie horse while you're sleeping and your calf cramps, or like you get a cramp on the bottom of your foot or something like that, usually it says you're lacking in one of these areas. And so if you do see yourself battling that, eating a little bit of an orange or a banana or having a sweet potato at dinner can kind of help with that kind of thing, because your body runs off of, not to get too scientific, but a sodium potassium pump. That's kind of how your muscles work.
Exactly, and so when your muscle contracts, it actually uses all four of those electrolytes in the process of contraction, and that's why when you are lacking those electrolytes, the process has issues and it messes up, and that's when you start to have cramps. That's when you actually, not only will you have cramps, but your performance decreases when you're lacking electrolytes. And so Gatorade's an okay option. if you really are what trainers usually would call a salty sweater, somebody, and you can tell this by, like, if you wear hats in the summer and you just got a rim of white around it, like, you're a salty sweater. You're sweating out a lot more of your electrolytes than most people would. Try not to just rely on Gatorade for all those things, because like Katie mentioned, foods are much richer in potassium and magnesium and calcium than Gatorade is. Now, Gatorade's high in salt, but even if you're going to go to a source like Gatorade, you've got better options out there, like your Pedialyte. BioLite's another one that are much higher in your electrolytes than Gatorade is.
And I think Gatorade's that good quick fix. So, like, if you are in the middle of a workout or something like that, you can do Gatorade. But preparation, we all know, is key in athletics. So preparing your body nutritionally and stuff, like nutritionally in athletics before competition, before games, is actually going to be like that winning component for you.
So, Katie, will you tell us? I know there's a ton of vitamins and minerals. There's 15 minerals and there's 13 vitamins, but which are your big three for athletes, and why are they important?
My top three is iron, vitamin C, and calcium. And I'll tell you why. Iron is huge. So iron is in, not to get too scientific, but it's in our kind of how our bloodstream goes. And it's how we get energy, how we transport oxygen in our blood, all of those things. But especially as female athletes, we tend to be low on iron, or anemic is usually the term on that. And so that's something that's really important to consider, because we go through monthly cycles where we can go very iron deficient in that time frame. And so we want to make sure that we're getting proper iron in our diet. And so Coach Neal can probably give a couple examples of some good iron. But I would be mindful of supplements without talking to your doctor too.
Yeah, and supplements aren't necessarily bad, but the way your body works, usually in most cases, it's going to absorb vitamins and minerals better from food than from a pill. And there's even been some studies that show that a lot of supplements that you're taking don't have the right stuff in it, or it's an aversion that your body can't absorb, and so you're taking the supplement and it's just a waste. I've seen things like magnesium. There's like 3 or 4 different magnesiums you can take, and some magnesiums you absorb 70% and some you absorb 10%. And if you don't know which specific one to take, you're not going to be real successful supplementing. Whereas with food, your body's going to be absorbing what it should. So, and with iron being one of our most important ones, you're going to get a ton of iron from red meat. I know red meat gets a bad rap, but you definitely, that's going to be your number one source, and that's another reason female athletes a lot of the times struggle with that, is because there's a higher percentage of the population that's female athletes that tends to be vegan or just doesn't prefer meat as a choice of food, and so they're lacking that. The other thing is leafy greens can be another
rich
spinach,
kale. I know it feels like your kale.
So all those fancier greens, they do have a lot of iron, and they're actually really good for you.
Okay, so the second one is calcium, and so this is great. Obviously, like I mentioned before, your body runs on all of those electrolytes, but calcium is great for your bones, but also for muscle contraction as well. It plays a role in that, and so. For female athletes, it's especially important because we actually lose our bone density as we get older, and just females in general, not necessarily athletes. And so I don't know if I can say that, if I'm a big fan of taking a calcium supplement. I take calcium little chewables. I don't know if I can say that without a doctor recommendation, but encourage you to, drink the milks and not the almond milk or anything like that. Dairy, cheese, yogurt, something like that with a lot of that rich calcium in it, because of osteoporosis or something like that occurs over time. The earlier you can kind of get calcium kind of in your routine or in your natural diet, in your system, the less steep the decline is for you to get osteoporosis or any. Basically, as we get older, our bone density gets smaller, and so the more calcium that we can kind of fuel into our body, but also exercise too, because that kind of builds up bone density. So a combination of calcium and exercise can help the decline of our bone density be less steep, if that makes sense. It's kind of a curve, and so calcium is a huge part of just athlete overall health, but very important for female athletes too. Anything you want to add?
Never stop lifting. No,
never.
It's a good segue into a lot of what we're talking about. Will help you as an athlete right now, but if you can develop these habits right now, nutritionally, eating correctly, and it's going to benefit you the rest of your life. Honestly, with a lot of what we do in the weight room too, if you can learn to, take care of your body and strengthen it, you're going to have some tools going on in life that can benefit you well beyond your playing career. The last vitamin we want to talk about, what is it?
Vitamin D. And so you actually get this, your body, I think the fallacy is that people think they get vitamin D from the sun, but I think your body actually produces vitamin D because of the sunlight. So I think that's something that kind of gets misconstrued in the media and stuff like that. And so sunlight is actually really great for you. Sunscreen is also very great for you too. So really finding that balance. So getting outside is actually very good for you to be able to produce the proper amount of vitamins that you need to function. And I think there's more to that, but I got a brain fart.
So like Katie said, vitamin D is really important, and it's the cheapest one to get because you just got to go outside. Now, this becomes important in the winter because you get so much less sunlight, and that's actually a theory, is that the reason everybody gets sick in the winter is not because it's cold outside, but because the whole population gets less sunlight. Well, everybody's immune systems require vitamin D to work at full capacity. So if everyone's immune health goes down all at once, well, disease starts spreading much faster, and that's why you get the common cold in winter. So in wintertime is a great time to try and get it from supplementation or get it from your food sources. And there is vitamin D in some different food sources, such as eggs and milk and some of your meats. They can help you get that vitamin D that you require. But it, again, helps with immune health, skin health. A lot of things actually are dependent on vitamin D. So it's another
kind of an integral foundational vitamin.
So, well, those are our vitamins we're going to talk about. There's a ton more, and they're all important. God designed our bodies to use all of them. We'd be here for a couple of hours, and it's honestly beyond my expertise to talk about every single vitamin in detail like that. We've put a few more on our Facebook page and on our Twitter and stuff, and on our handouts that we've given you this week, that talks about the different vitamins and which ones are really important. And these are things you can always sit down with us and talk about too if you want more information. Me and Coach Katie are always here as a resource if you ever want to sit down and get more in depth, because nutrition is tremendously complicated.
Yes.
And neither of us are really experts in it. We're just trying to give you as many tools as we can to make sure that you're successful. So thanks for watching. Thanks for being with us this week, and go Warriors.